Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. And today we are with Dr. Jack Zuckerman, physical therapist in New Jersey. Welcome to the podcast here, Jack.
Thank you, Chad. Really excited to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
You have a practice in New Jersey, Total Recovery PT. Can you tell us a little bit about your practice and how long you've been in operation?
So the current practice we have is a multidisciplinary clinic. We have physical therapy, occupational therapy, acupuncture. So most of our treatments revolve around more of a multidisciplinary approach. When patients come in, started the practice in 2015 as a sole practitioner. Started very slow, no overhead, and essentially I sublet a space from a chiropractor. And small room, probably 8 by 10. She was feeding me a few patients here and there, went into network with a few insurances, and essentially I was supplementing some of my income working part-time here, part-time there, some home care. And essentially started building up a reputation. Really wasn't doing much marketing. I guess the only marketing I was doing was just to, give the best possible care I can give and spend time with my patients, and got myself busy. Outgrew that space there, took on a space just down the road within a building, not the best location at all. It was behind a building, barely can squeeze a few cars in there, but the budget allowed for it, $1,000 a month, and it was more than I can afford at the time. But I knew I needed to make a move because it was just, I outgrew that 8 by 10 room and took that space on. I was there for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and quickly outgrew that space. And it was just me and another aide / receptionist. Started hiring a couple of part-timers, PTs, just to help with a little bit, hours here and there. And quickly outgrew that place, like I said, less than 2 years. And I was looking for another place nearby. Obviously, didn't want to venture out too far. And found a place in Little Falls. It's a TD Bank. It was a former TD Bank, fully functional bank, safety deposit boxes, everything you can imagine a bank looks like, that's what it was. And took on that space. It was 2,800 square feet. Had no idea how I was going to fill space, but I was like, there's not much in the market. Everything was super expensive. I said, I'm just going to jump into this corner location, downtown Little Falls. I was like, can't beat the price that I'm getting it for. And I knew that I eventually wanted to do a multidisciplinary practice because I've worked in multidisciplinary practices and I know the approach and I know how successful they can be. So that was always in the back of my mind, but started off as a PT. And that was in 2019. So in 2019, right before the pandemic, took on this practice, set it up, spent tens and thousands of dollars of renovations. And before, once everything was set up and as everything started rolling, 2020 hit. And we know what 2020 was like for everyone. So that wasn't fun for a new practice owner or a larger space, for a larger space. And landlord was great, worked with me, helped me out through the time, through the months. And once we got out toward the end of the summer, after the summer, things started picking up again. And since 2019, just kept growing our practice. And here we are, 2024. Maxed out at capacity, and then looking forward to the next step of expanding our practice and growing.
Make it sound so easy, man.
Yeah, I didn't talk about the sweat and the tears in between, but there were a lot of that, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, a lot of worry, a lot of stress, gray hair.
Let's dig into that. So you said you opened in 2015, correct?
2015 is when I first started. Yeah.
Okay. So there was an impetus, likely you were working somewhere, you were working in a situation, you were like, I'm ready to do this on my own and build something, even though it was just an 8 by 10 room, humble beginning in the very beginning. When you started in the chiropractic office, how did you think through that? Was there something that happened? Was there something that just pushed you forward to make the move to be your own boss and have your own clinic?
Yeah, for sure. Well, as all PTs, we come out of school thinking we're going to heal the world quick. And, come out of school and I had a practice I was working as an aide in. They took me in, paid me a pretty high salary. And I was like, I'm going to treat and cure everyone. This is going to be a piece of cake. I know everything. And After a few patients, you realize like, oh, never mind. It's not gonna be as easy as I thought. And it was a very high volume clinic, and I was lucky to get a lot of exposure to a lot of different manual therapy courses, a lot of different courses through my school. I went to Long Island University, so I was taking a number of courses there, a number of courses after. So I had a pretty good foundation, and I started realizing that I cannot implement what I want to implement in a very high volume practice. But I knew that I could. I knew I had the potential of really making big changes. So I burnt out a year, almost 2 years working at this practice. I transitioned to a different setting, did some home care, did some hospital work. Definitely not for me. I was always definitely an outpatient guy. And then as I started to, work my way towards outpatient, I started picking up a couple of part-time jobs. At the time I moved to New Jersey, I was lucky enough to get introduced to a chiropractor who happened to just was okay with subletting some space, and she kind of took me in. I'm originally from New York, Brooklyn, New York, so I don't know where I'm going in New Jersey. I was just told, hey, go to this chiropractor's office in Cedar Grove, New Jersey, talk to her, see what she can do for you, see what you guys can work out. Maybe you guys can work out a deal. So I knew that I wanted to do something on my own because I had this vision of, okay, this is what PT should be. This is what it should look like. These are the results. This is the outcomes. And these are the changes that we were always told we could make in school. So to me, it was no brainer. I was like, I got to go off on my own because everywhere I worked, you can't change the structure. You can't change, how the vision and the mission and anything like that with once a practice owner comes up with their model and their business model. So I knew I had to go off on my own, and this was a great opportunity. Yeah, I went off on my own, and like I said, the rest is history. I mean, that was the big one. It was just knowing what physios have the potential to do, and knowing what we could do. Because, as you know, unfortunately, most patients, other doctors, and they have no idea what we do. And our scope of practice is pretty dynamic, and some of the results and some impact we can have on our patients is pretty amazing as well, with the minimally invasive kind of approach we have.
Yeah. Nice. So, like most of us, you had a semi-jaded experience. You wanted to do things in the way that you wanted to do them and provide high quality of care. What are you most proud of in your 9 years as a private practice owner?
Results, and just having the pride of the professionalism I bring to the table. That was always something that I grew my practice on, was having people see that I was different, and that was big for me. And I would always get this question. I share this with my team all the time, and this is something that I share in our part of our accountabilities, our expectations, and some during our reviews, that I essentially want to create an experience for the patient and for the customer, for the patient, that is unique and different. And how it's different is that when patients come to see us, or let's say me in the very beginning, I wanted the common thing I would get is like, what is this? This is different. This is not physical therapy. And I'm like, sure it is. I was like, this is exactly what physical therapy is. And I was doing just nothing really. It was above the standard, we call the old model of physical therapy, but it was essentially just applying manual therapy techniques, some osteopathic, some functional mobilization movement, PNF, things that were a little bit different than what most traditional PT places were doing. And by spending a little more time with the patient, show them, how they can, obviously they're seeing the results. That was the different effect. And the word of mouth spread. At the time, I wasn't really doing a whole lot of marketing, but it was a lot of word of mouth. But essentially that can take you so far to grow a practice, because then you have staff that you hire, and word of mouth sometimes is not enough. Now you have to train your staff and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So let's talk about the multidisciplinary approach that you've incorporated, because I think that's interesting. I think it's something that a lot of clinicians are looking at, and love the model that you have. Can you talk a little bit about how you chose and why you chose the different professionals to bring in, and what that in the end means for the patient, and also your business model as well?
Yeah, so I worked in a facility that had that, and the way I saw the way they approached it, patients, is on a whole body. I mean, as physical therapists, when we look at a patient, we look at them head to toe. We want to know what the root cause is, where this is coming from,
Yep.
People can have a neck issue from a dysfunctional foot and ankle issue. But what I started noticing also is that, there's other issues going on in the body. And sometimes these are more like maybe internal medicine issues or things that are a little bit outside of scope practice. And having exposure to, for example, acupuncture, I knew acupuncture as ancient Chinese medicine, right? This is what they used thousands of years ago. And they implemented Chinese medicine and herbs essentially to treat every condition you could think of,
Mhm.
whether it's blood pressure issues or other medical ailments. And having that holistic approach was good because people who come to see you, it's not just musculoskeletal. There's other things that play. There's other medicine, there's internal dysfunctions, stress, anxiety, what have you. And having that acupuncturist on staff kind of completes the picture for us, where we can really blend those two in and really get a total approach to how we could fix the problem at hand. So it's not just the musculoskeletal; it's the whole system. We're looking at multiple systems.
Yep.
An occupational therapist. Most people are not very familiar with an occupational therapist in an outpatient setting, but essentially they specialize a lot with the upper extremity. The way we apply the occupational therapist is essentially we have, if a patient comes in, very commonly, patients come in and say, you know what, yeah, I am here for my knee and hip, but I also have this left shoulder pain, this neck pain, I got this carpal tunnel syndrome, and I got an ankle problem. And you're thinking, man, I got to tackle 6 diagnoses now. Awesome. This should be fun. So that becomes a problem, and I know that was something in the past that we've done before or I've done before, and I was told by my previous bosses in private practice, it's like, hey, pick one, treat that, and then move on to the other one once you're done with that plan of care. So I'm thinking to myself, it's like, if a patient's coming in, they're having a lot of pain with their neck and shoulder and knee and hip, so I'm going to pick one and just kind of ignore the rest for 4 to 6 weeks until we fix one problem. So the business model that seemed to be working for other people that we implement is hiring an occupational therapist, and an occupational therapist has essentially trained on how to do orthopedic, musculoskeletal assessments, treatments, hands-on manual therapy. When we have a patient comes in with multiple diagnoses, it's a very simple solution. We have the physical therapist who will cater to the certain body parts, whether it's low back pain, hip, knee, and then we have the upper quadrant, if you will. The occupational therapy targets that area. We have a more of a comprehensive approach where patients come in and they're able to get a little bit of get a treatment and for those conditions, and it creates this one-stop shop which patients love. You kind of tackle a few birds with one stone.
Yeah, nice. So I know that you offer Light Force as well. Are you doing anything else with the Novus right now? Like,
Novus, yeah, we have RPW shockwave, and we have Life Force, the class 4 laser therapy,
nice. And then I think
and the
that's
new,
how we
and we
go.
also have the newbie, the new fit device. Yeah,
So can
we
you
got
talk a
the
little bit about?
trifecta.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So can you talk about what you're doing there? I'm assuming you're offering that as a cash-based add-on service, like most
Absolutely,
practices are. Yeah, and
absolutely.
yeah, just how's that experience going for you?
It's going great. Initially there's some pushback. Physical therapists don't like any fancy gadgets and modalities. We only learn basically 2 modalities: ultrasound and e-stim, both which we know doesn't really work all that well. So we have a device that we kind of keep it in the back and really just collecting dust. So it took a while for me to actually bring these modalities in. It was through a colleague of mine that was using it. It took several months for me to really research into it, see who's using it, the science, the research, and it made sense from that. And then once I checked those boxes, I said, you know what? I was like, what else can we do? And with the help of a Novus, they were able to uh, cater and create a kind of marketing tools and a business strategy of how I would incorporate the laser, which was the first modality we got, into our practice. So they let us trial it. We used it on some patients, had some amazing results. Then we said, you know what, you know, yeah, we could do a lot with our hands. We could do a lot with with what we know, but patients who are having a lot of pain, chronic pain, sometimes those are the challenge ones. So having these modalities in hand and being able to really just switch pain levels and just kind of shut them down naturally, non-invasively, without side effects, it's quite remarkable. So the laser therapy was our first one. Then shockwave was our next modality. Same idea, introduced to it through Renovus. One of the big ones for me, for example, I know that whenever I had a patient coming in an eval, and it said something along the lines of tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, tendonitis, any tendonitis, you're like, oh, this is going to be a long journey. Those chronic tendonitis are really hard to treat. So it would be, and pretty, not the greatest success rate of treatments either. You get a lot of dropouts because people kind of get frustrated. And looking into the research of shockwave RPW, I mean, this has been used for decades in Europe. We were a little bit slow to adopt it, but finally the Western states started adopting some of this shockwave technology. So research started to really show itself, and same idea. Saw the research, saw who was using it, saw how it was working, and another way of implementing it as a cash paying model. Adding on to what we're doing, because it definitely is a big makes a big change in your overall average reimbursement. It's no secret reimbursements are tough. It's no secret that there's a battle. It's an uphill battle getting the reimbursement that we think should be, whether you're in network, out of network. So having that cash paying model service really creates autonomy for a physical therapist, I think, because it creates us as the leaders and experts of pain management and addressing dysfunctions and issues. And then, of course, it helps overall grow our practice. And if we can grow our practice, then you're able to cater to more patients. You're able to help more patients. So if you have something good, you want to try to be able to scale that and grow that, so you can spread that out to other people and other neighborhoods and other. Yeah, so it's a win-win for everyone.
Speaking of spreading out, it seems like in the beginning you were mainly relying on what most of us do: high quality of care, word of mouth referrals, maybe some Google reviews, things along those lines. And then through Innovus and Lightforce, you ended up being introduced to Breakthrough. At that time, back in 2022, what were you looking to do? I'm going to guess it's fill the 2,800 square feet from your story.
Before we continue with this episode, here's a word about our course, Profitability Under Pressure.
How does your practice's profitability today compare to what it was back in 2019? Is it keeping pace with inflation? Hey, this is Chad Madden here. I want to introduce you to the Profitability Under Pressure program. This is a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a robust financial system for your practice. Most owners aim to improve revenue per visit and enhance their bottom line. However, many are facing declining reimbursements and rising operational costs, making it challenging to maintain financial health. The Profitability Under Pressure program consolidates the best practices currently working for practice owners into one comprehensive system. This program will help you boost profit margins, reclaim your time, gain time freedom, and assist more people in your community and leave a bigger impact. You'll learn how to conduct a profit leak audit, create a profit plan, and use various levers to increase revenue. Additionally, you'll get a 90-day trial of our patient demand software and access to our exclusive Inside Circle community. Here you can connect with other like-minded practice owners who are navigating similar challenges and finding solutions. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from owners like Lance Gross, who added $1.1 million to his bottom line; Peg Gray, who got her finances under control; and Jeff Gersh, who saved time with our cheat sheet for increasing profitability. Don't miss this opportunity. Apply today for the Profitability Under Pressure program and start increasing your profits by $10,000 or more within just 90 days of implementation, guaranteed. Secure a more stable financial future for your practice. Click below and apply now to join the ranks of successful physical therapy private practice owners who transform their businesses with our program. Apply now. We're awarding 10 $1,500 grants for private practice owners. However, you must apply before November 1st. Click the link below to apply for the Profitability Under Pressure program and the $1,500 grant before November 1st.
Thank you for listening this far. Now back to the episode.
Yeah. We were growing slowly and not as fast as I wanted to. So yeah, I was introduced to Breakthrough via Novus. There was like a partnership essentially, and I heard the name at first, and then I was getting emails. I was getting some emails from them. I was looking into them and hopped on a call with who's my onboard? Oh, it was
Caleb.
Caleb, thank you, Caleb. So
Just
hopped on a
point of reference. for everybody, and you can share a Caleb story, but Caleb is the Caleb from Survivor season, I believe it's 44. Very notable figure. And yeah, he's worked here at Breakthrough for 7 years now. And in the show, I know they said in software sales, and that software company is Breakthrough. So a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, that's Caleb.
Caleb,
And
yeah, Caleb's a man, a bundle of positive energy, and he's a pleasure to hang out with when we are out at the conferences. But Caleb, when we first met, at first I was like, man, this guy really knows how to sell his product, and I'm no easy sell. I mean, I make my decisions. It takes a long time for me to make a decision because I weigh out everything. I don't know if it's because people tell me my zodiac sign is a Libra. I have no idea if that has to do with anything, but I weigh out my options very, very, very carefully. Just how I build up my business very carefully. I didn't really take on any debt. I took everything very slow. This was another big decision to make, but I knew I wanted to fill schedule, and I knew I needed to do something different because whatever I was doing, it was growing, but I wanted to see faster growth. I needed to see I need to fill a schedule faster because my end goal was to expand, open up more locations, and continue what I was doing and what I'm passionate about doing. So after multiple conversations with Caleb, I think it was maybe at least 4, possibly 5 Zoom calls. He was very patient. Finally, saw the positive, the potential essentially with Breakthrough of how we can actually incorporate the marketing strategies of Breakthrough within our practice. And it made sense because I had a pretty good idea of what was out there in our competitors in the area. I kind of knew what everyone's doing, and it was very different. And I thought that, if we really hone in on this, we can make a pretty significant change with this business model and this marketing strategy. So signed up, and that was 2022, right? That was 2022. And, we've been growing year after year, and we're on a track for this year to have the highest gross revenue year of the company. And I would say over the last few years, we had above a 20% growth year after year since COVID.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
You're also putting in the work. You're also learning a lot. You're at all the events with Christine, right? You're right. So you're putting it into action as well. Yeah. So give yourself some credit there. That's great. Let's talk about that transition from high quality of care, relying on word of mouth referrals that you were doing early in your career and how well that worked for you, and then adapting that model to where now you're going direct to the consumer and you're beginning to market and reach more people in your area. You're obviously in a highly densely populated area, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically New York City greater. It's not New York City, but it's not
New York City, but
you're close.
Yeah.
A lot of your community works in New York City, I'm sure. Fair. So highly densely populated. Can you talk about the mental shift of how you thought about that? You talked about your meticulous process of thinking through everything, making sure you're calculated, making sure you're weighing the pros and cons as a clinician, where we're not trained in how to market. We're not trained in how to go direct to the consumer. How did you go through that journey? How did you position it in your mind? And ultimately, you can share any barriers or any obstacles that you struggled with and how you overcame that thought process.
I'll be honest, before joining Breakthrough, I just did what I did best. I didn't know much about the business. I was reading business books and, entrepreneurial books and things like that, just trying to implement that. But it was kind of all over the place. So didn't really have a whole lot of strategy with that. The big thing I think I was missing was systems and processes. That was a big one. And just, once you start growing, you start adding staff. I mean, we have a team of 25 now. So when you start growing and you start getting busier, you need those systems and processes. So I realized pretty quick that I need to do something with that because, the whole idea of, why can't they just do what I'm thinking doesn't really work. You have to put everything on paper. You have to really do the training and kind of go through all the process. And it was definitely definitely a learning curve applying these principles. But I think that's where a lot of the clarity came from. It was from, when I went to Breakthrough, listening to other practice owners, listening to you speak, and just learning a little bit about what to implement. And also just having some of that guidance. It almost felt like a mentorship. I almost felt there was like this kind of mutual mentorship between practice owners. And then, of course, you have practice owners who have less experience, and then you have practice owners who have more experience, and you're learning from everyone. So I think that was a big help. That was a big help of trying to figure out and strategize, what kind of system processes, where do you start first? And, because you have the idea, but now how do you really put it on paper and make it work and essentially scale, right? How do you scale that? So that was the biggest challenge of figuring that out. And one book that I think really helped, was a recommendation from Breakthrough, possibly I think it was you, was Traction, that was the EOS model. And that was a big tool that I used to try and essentially implement those ideas and processes into practice. And I think that was a big help for sure. And that's something that, like I said, I know I've heard a lot of practice owners using that. I know you're a big proponent of the EOS tool, and that's the entrepreneurial operating system, I believe. EOS, that's what it stands for.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So that was definitely something that helped me tremendously. And essentially that was that's where it all started from, of trying to help grow the practice and start going in the direction of being able to scale.
So it sounds like,
to answer the question.
well, we'll break this down. So it sounds like a little bit, I'm all alone to a degree. I know I need systems. I know I need processes in place. Right now, this is all relying on what's in my head. And I need to have systems in place for my team so that we're doing things in a way that every patient that comes through is getting a high level of care. Right? So everybody's being treated fairly. So we have a reasonable profit margin of safety in our business, and that we can continue to stay open and continue to serve our community. So do I have that correct so far?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then you mentioned, attending a breakthrough event, hearing other owners share how they were implementing certain processes or systems. Is there one, Jack, that you were struggling with, where you heard another owner talk and you were like, ooh, I'm going to put that in place, and then you had a win, you had a mini transformation within your practice? Anything like that you recall off the top of your head? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, that's, why that's hard to answer, because I got a lot of those. That's why I'm trying to see what was maybe a little bit more substantial, but I had a lot of those. I mean, even like the smallest thing of like weekly team meetings, just structuring those, getting some ideas of what you did with your practice and how you structured those. And that was a big help. The scorecards, creating a scorecard for your clinicians and for your staff, and having those metrics in place, like accountabilities, competencies, and core value, and then grading people and having them be accountable for these things. That was huge, because there's again, you put it on paper, right? Because I have it in my head. I know exactly who's performing, and I know exactly who's doing what. That's so true, but they don't know, because they have no idea what they're doing. So it's nice to kind of sit down on paper and show them exactly, hey, this is how you're performing, and these are the expectations. This is how you're performing, and this is set out from day one. This is set at the onboarding. So the expectations are there, and then you touch base every quarter or 6 months, however your company structures it. And that was a big one, because now you're not relying on guesswork. Like, hey, is everyone performing up to par? Is everyone doing what they're doing, or is someone not performing up to standard? And if you don't have that standard, when someone told me, you got to put everybody under the microscope, because someone falls under that standard, that's going to trickle down. It's going to result in reflecting domino. So having those scorecard sheets, it was definitely a big one. So the scorecard sheets, the weekly meetings, keeping people accountable, those are huge. I mean, I have probably a bunch of
you rattled off examples there, man. That was impressive. That you remembered those off the top of your head. That was great. So I know right now Christine's involved in the practice, right? Your wife?
Yeah, she's head of the marketing department.
Great. So, and then you're a family man as well. You have a 15-month-old son at home. Can you talk a little bit about what, going from that 8x10 room to now you have 30 times the square footage, and, being in 2,800 square feet and filling that up, having the impact that you're having a financially sound practice? Can you talk a little bit about what that has meant for you personally and your family as well?
Yeah, I do want to touch on that, the impact of the community, because we just had a 5K that we sponsor every year in town, and I think that it was really we just had a quarterly meeting last week. I'm sorry, yeah, this week, Monday, and something that I wasn't at the 5K event, but one thing that was really cool to hear from whoever was there is that the mayor was there and a few other people, council people, and they came up to the table, and our athletic trainer there, he was there, and a few other assistants, and they were just kind of leading and helping out with the event. And it said, "Hey, it's really good to see you guys are here again. Really appreciate you guys supporting us, and you guys really became a staple in the community." And to hear that from the mayor of the town and just other people who work, the council people, that was amazing to hear, because I kind of say to myself, I feel like we're a staple in the community. I mean, we're kind of the go-to PT place in this area. I mean, our Google reviews speak for themselves, and our reputation speaks. But to actually hear that, that was cool to hear, and that it just sometimes all the struggles and the stress and all that stuff comes as practice owners, and you hear that, and you're like, I think it's all worth it. And it's like that's statements like that. But to also elaborate on some of the stuff that you were asking, the questions on that. So yeah, it's juggling family, kids. That was a huge change. I mean, enormous. When first starting, I was working, easy 70 plus hours a week, treating admin work, what have you. And even up until a few years ago, same idea. Weekends, always working, always friggin', always planning for the week, easily 70 plus hours a week. I would say that in the last year is where I can probably step back a little bit and start to see a little bit more of that freedom, see a little bit of more of that, where I have some people in place, leaders, people in the clinic that can actually take over and help with some of the administrative work or the back end work through through developing some of these systems and processes. So still working long hours, and part of that is because we're still in the process of growing and expanding, and would like to open up another location, so that's always going to be there. But it's the type of work, I guess. It's more delegating and learning how to delegate more. I think that was another positive impact for Breakthrough, just learning that you have to be able to look at your time and value your time and know, like, okay, what kind of job is this? Is this a $20 an hour job, or this is a $100 an hour job? They say that if the story of Bill Gates is walking and he sees a $1 or $5 bill, is he going to stop
$100
to
bill.
pick? It's a $100 bill, yeah. So $100 bill, is he going to stop to pick that up, or is he going to keep walking? And the answer is going to keep walking, because that time that's going to take him to stop to pick it up is not as valuable as the time that it'll take him to go on to his next project. So that's something I've implemented in my life too.
Yeah, that's great, man. I do want to share just personally. It is, most practice owners will say that they want the benefits of having the right people in the right seats, a growing team, and also systems in place. And we're looking for, long-term time freedom and financial flexibility, and, making that huge legacy-like impact, a staple in the community, I think, as you put it. So we want to do those things. Very few are willing to do what you've done, which is dive into the learning, put it into action, know that it's not going to be right in the first time through, that there's going to be a learning curve, and having that grit. Maybe some of that's growing up in Brooklyn, but is that where you originally from?
I think that grit comes from my parents, because we were immigrants from Ukraine, Soviet Russia, USSR. Came here, I left when I was 3. Came to America because my parents were like, "Hey, there's no future there. It's like, this is why we're here." So I think just coming here with nothing, my parents had no job, no money, no nothing, just a little bit of support from an organization that was helping us to immigrate here. And I think just having that constant in the back of my mind, my parents came here for a reason, and I got to make the best of it. The land of opportunity. So I've always had that in the back of my mind, and I said, "I was like, there's no way I'm going to fail my parents. Can't do that to my mom." So I was like, you know what? I got to work hard and figure something out. I think that grit definitely comes from my parents, and just the story you hear from immigrant parents to come here and know that you got to make something of yourself. So I think that's the work ethic that comes from my parents.
Nice. You did grow up in Brooklyn, though, right?
I grew up in Brooklyn. I was raised in Brooklyn. I was not born there, but when we immigrated here, we went straight to Brooklyn and Pretty much, yeah, for Brooklyn from 1989 until 2015.
Okay, great. And how's your jujitsu game coming along?
It's really slowed down since having my son. I I would say, you know what, I haven't been in a few weeks. I'm actually going tonight, my first class back in like 4 weeks. So I'm really excited about that. I was able to work out my schedule, but it's been tough coming home late. I mean, I leave early in the morning, don't get to see him come back late at night because my jiu-jitsu classes are late at night, 7:30. So it's hard to fit that in, plus the business, plus everything else. But I got to make time for myself. So I'm getting back into that, hoping to maybe even do 2 classes this week, Tuesday, Thursday. So
Whoa,
that'll be
slow down.
really exciting. I
That's
got to
great.
make up for lost times in week 5. So I got to get back on it.
All right. Well, good luck rolling on the mats. And Jack, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah,
This has been great.
absolutely. It's a
And
pleasure.
I feel like I'm supposed to say os. So
Oos.
os.
Thank
Great.
you,
Thanks,
Chad.
man. Take care, Jack.
Great
See
talking
you.
to you. Thank you.
How does your practice's profitability today compare to what it was back in 2019? Is it keeping pace with inflation? Hey, this is Chad Madden here. I want to introduce you to the Profitability Under Pressure program. This is a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a robust financial system for your practice. Most owners aim to improve revenue per visit and enhance their bottom line. However, many are facing declining reimbursements and rising operational costs, making it challenging to maintain financial health. The Profitability Under Pressure program consolidates the best practices currently working for practice owners into one comprehensive system. This program will help you boost profit margins, reclaim your time, gain time freedom, and assist more people in your community and leave a bigger impact. You'll learn how to conduct a profit leak audit, create a profit plan, and use various levers to increase revenue. Additionally, you'll get a 90-day trial of our patient demand software and access to our exclusive Inside Circle community. Here you can connect with other like-minded practice owners who are navigating similar challenges and finding solutions. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from owners like Lance Gross, who added $1.1 million to his bottom line, Peg Gray, who got her finances under control, and Jeff Gersh, who saved time with our cheat sheet for increasing profitability. Don't miss this opportunity. Apply today for the Profitability Under Pressure program and start increasing your profits by $10,000 or more within just 90 days of implementation, guaranteed. Secure a more stable financial future for your practice. Click below and apply now to join the ranks of successful physical therapy private practice owners who transform their businesses with our program. Apply now. We're awarding 10 $1,500 grants for private practice owners. However, you must apply before November 1st. Click the link below to apply for the Profitability Under Pressure program and the $1,500 grant before November 1st.